Commissioner, Guyana Elections Commissions, Ms. Rose Teresa Georges, Councillor in the Electoral Office of Haiti, Mr. Harmon St. Helen, Chief Elections Officer of the Electoral Department of St. Lucia, Ms. Brendalyn Henry, Regional Manager, Electoral Office of Jamaica, and Ms. Lena Campos Sahadu, Deputy Chief Elections Officer of Trinidad and Tobago. The CEOM is supported by 3 members of the CARICOM Secretariat, namely Ms. Shea Alicia Lewis, Program Community Relations, Manager for Community Relations, Mr. David Allens, Project Manager, Foreign Affairs Community Relations, and Ms. Denise Morgan, who is right at the back, Stenographer and Foreign and Community Relations. The core team, comprising of the Chief of Missions of CARICOM, Secretariat Support Staff, arrived in Suriname on Monday, 19 May 2025, while the remaining members of the mission will arrive in Suriname between the 21st and 22nd of May. Since the team's arrival, a courtesy call has been paid on His Excellency Albert Ramdin, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business and International Cooperation. The team has also had the opportunity to familiarize itself with some of the security measures in place to ensure the safety of the elections through a visit to the command center. Following the arrival press conference this afternoon, meetings were also held or will be held with representatives of various political parties. Engagements will continue throughout the week with other stakeholders and civil society organizations, including Youth Council, the Inter-Religious Council, representatives of the indigenous and Maroon communities, and the Anti-Fraud Platform, among others. The CEOM looks forward to also engaging with the Chair of the National Assembly and the Minister of Home Affairs, as well as the Chair of the Independent Electoral Council, OCAB, and participating in the OCAB information sessions for international election observers on 23rd May. The CEOM's engagement over the next few days is meant to provide an understanding of the pre-election environment. The team will also monitor the polling day activities, including the opening, conduct, and closing of the polls, through to the tabulation of ballots and declaration of the results. Throughout the mission, the CEOM will collect qualitative and quantitative data regarding the entire electoral process, including the actions and conduct of elections officials, political actors, and other stakeholders, to assess the extent to which they contributed to the overall electoral environment. Following the election day activities, the CEOM will issue a preliminary statement of its observation. The content will highlight the scope and the findings of the mission. A final report will be prepared and submitted to the Secretary General of the CARICOM community. This report will be shared with the government of Suriname, the leader of the opposition, and the Ministry of Home Affairs, and also the Independent Electoral Council, OKB. The entire CEOM will depart on the 27th May 2025. The CARICOM Election Observer Mission expresses sincerest gratitude for the invitation extended to participate in this observer mission and support the democratic process in the Republic of Suriname. The team will also extend appreciation to the Surinamese people for their support and the warm hospitality extended thus far. CARICOM wishes the Republic of Suriname a peaceful and successful election exercise. Thank you.
So at this time, we do welcome your questions for our Chief of Mission, but just in terms of ground rules or housekeeping before we begin, can we ask that if you wish to ask a question, that you raise your hand, and once you have been identified or called on, that you indicate your name and the media entity that you represent. Gives us a good sense of knowing to whom we're speaking and who is present here. Thank you very much. So you may go ahead to indicate if you have any questions. Yes. Oh.
The delegation, how many people are in this delegation?
In total, 12. We have 9 representing member states and 3 from the CARICOM Secretariat.
And of those 12 people that will be in Suriname, is this their first, second, or third time observing election?
Well, all of the members have experience observing elections. Some of them are chief of elections or chief of elections before. And I was here in 2020 as your chief, as a CARICOM chief for your elections. So we have a wealth of knowledge, we have years of experience, and not only that, we have from among the team, they are members of electoral bodies in their country.
On the day of the election itself, what are the things you guys are looking for, criteria, your observation that consists of what?
Well, you spoke about criteria, and that has to do with your laws. What is your practice? What is supposed to happen in the elections? But and also in terms of CARICOM, we observe, we can't interfere in your elections, but we will use the laws to guide our observation process as we go through the day.
And all the information that you will gather, for whom is that information?
Well, we are representing CARICOM, and that information will first go to the Secretary General, and then after the final report is done, that will be disbursed to your government, including the opposition and the other stakeholders, OKB, who are responsible for that information. And also we must include Home Affairs because they are the ones who organize your elections here.
My name is Martin from the Times of Suriname newspaper. It isn't the first time this CARICOM mission is here, right, to observe an election in Suriname. So, as you all know, we haven't changed our election laws. So this will be the first time we'll be organizing an election in a different way than before. So what are the main key points you're going to focus on, I'd like to compare, like for the past one?
Now you spoke about changes, and based on those changes, we are going to look forward to see how those apply, how does your electors understand this process and how they apply it on election day. Because you said there were changes, and if there are changes, that had to be communicated with your masses, and we will see the application on the day.
So on election day itself, where is this mission going to be focused on? I mean, in which districts? Or you mentioned that the mission has 12 people. So are you going to focus in capital city, or are you going to spread out in more districts?
Yes, we will be spread out. We have identified some areas so far, at least 5 of those areas. We will try to make sure that those are covered, and we will have a better understanding, a better hang of what took place, so that we can report effectively on what took place.
Will your final report have any effect on Suriname's participation in Caricom going forward?
No, that would not affect any member of Suriname being part of the Caricom Observer team.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is James. My name is Felix Samuel. I'm a journalist from Star News, a local news site. I'm working for different Dutch media as well. You mentioned in your opening speech that there will be meetings with several stakeholders, among which also political leaders from different parties. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
This is Jane Simons from the National Democratic Party. She already mentioned in several interviews that there will be fraud on a huge scale. Did these signals reach you already?
Could you just repeat? I'm paying attention. I'm listening hard because of the language barrier.
Okay, yeah, of course, sure. Mrs. Jenny Simons, she already mentioned in several interviews in the Suriname media, and in Dutch media as well, that there will be fraud on a huge scale coming Sunday. Did those signals reach you?
You spoke about fraud, right? You're asking if...
No, not me.
Okay, you said, you repeated what they said about... Okay. Now, we have not heard much about that, and as we engage with the media, the parties, and civil society, we will see if we have that, if that information is trending, and we will look to see what is happening on the ground. We could only confirm or deny when we see or hear of any of such issue in relation to fraud.
Of course. Because what I heard as well is that the different, the huge parties, the PHP as well as the NDP, they will have their countings themselves. No?
You said two parties would have
Their countings,
the counting.
the votes as well themselves.
They will be counting the votes themselves. According to your laws and your structure, votes are counted on the evening of the election by the electoral staff, that 10-member team that will be there. But the agents would be included from all parties once they're participating in a region, in a constituency.
My colleague asked you different areas where you will have your observations. Can you tell us a little bit more of it? How is the Paramaribo?
Paramaribo would be included, it's the capital.
Yes.
We have Kamawina. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing Marawini. Wanika could be included. Saramaka, and we also have Koroni.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What is being said about the elections in Suriname? What are people saying when they talk about the elections of Suriname?
Most persons we have engaged in spoke about the peacefulness and the camaraderie on the elections. From my experience, I saw that although I came in COVID, maybe I would look forward to see what happens outside of COVID. But so far we have had good reviews.
And the delegation being of 12 people, what is the will be, because Suriname is a big continent, yeah, what do you guys see as the challenges for them the benefit of need?
Well, our main challenge would be that we would not be able to cover all of the areas. However, there are other observation missions who are here, and they too will be participating, so you will have very good coverage. Welcome.
Are there any more questions?
I have one question. So, as my colleague has mentioned earlier, there are some political leaders that have mentioned that they anticipate that there will be fraud on the election day. But also, in the process going to the elections, different media houses have also reported on things going wrong in the process of getting everything ready for the election day. Like nothing is done on time, there are issues with persons who are going to work on the election day at the different election locations that they were not anymore able to work for that day. So last minute they train people who were actually earlier cut out from the list because they didn't fulfill the requirements needed for that day. So have you engaged already with different organizations, opposition parties, and also maybe the media to gather all this information that all the things that has been going wrong before the elections? Of course, you will get all your data on the day of the elections, and I mentioned it also in the report. But if Suriname doesn't get like a fair or positive review on the end, what will be the impact of your report within the Caribbean community for Suriname also? Like, is Suriname going to get some recommendations for the next elections, or what they have to focus on? Are they going to be recommendations for improvements? We would really like to know that.
Based on our experiences as we go through from our arrival yesterday right up to E-Day and the day after, we will be able to make an assessment. So we can't speak to the fraud, we can't speak to if persons would be short, polling stations would be short. There's still days for people to get things right. But after, and we make our assessment, then it's norm that recommendations are offered. We can only offer recommendations. It is for the country to take recommendations if it's necessary for them.
Later on the day, I came to understand that later on the day, you guys have a meeting with political parties. Yeah.
Yes, we continue after this press conference.
Yeah. What are you guys talking about?
Well, I don't know what the political parties will bring to the table, but what we are going to do is to find out what is the environment like in terms of their operations and how are things going so far. So maybe we would have some of those things coming out.
Well, it appears that we have no more questions. So on that note, we would like to thank you for participating in this press conference. We'd like to thank you for engaging with us and for asking very relevant questions. We will have you know that following the elections, we are expecting to have another press conference, and we hope to see the same faces, and also please bring your friends. So once again, thank you very much.